Faculty of Education, Curriculum Studies, Education Technology. I want to present to you catfish production or catfish farming, the usefulness and what you can gain by backing into catfish production. Catfish is a very nutritious or proteinous. Catfish is normally found in fresh water in Africa, in Europe, and in the American continent. Catfish produces more than 60% of protein for everyday use. It's a scaleless type of fish that is found in fresh water. Catfish production is very, very profitable, and for that reason I'm presenting this the ways you can go about farming or producing catfish for both personal and for commercial. And this topic is divided into the following. One, what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the benefits of catfish, the materials needed for catfish production, such as fish ponds, pond preparation, the fish feed, the fish biotics or antibiotic materials, for the fish multivitamins that you need, and also the way you can stock it, the materials you need for stocking and for sales of the catfish. Also, we're going to look at the way you monitor or you manage the feeding process, which is very, very important. If it is not well managed or monitored, definitely you will run at a loss. Also, the way we preserve it for sales and also for future utilization. So for that reason, we want to start at evaluation. We have more than 1,000 species of catfish available globally, far more than 1,000 catfish species. And the types that are available that you can see include one, the blue fish, the blue catfish. It is found in the American continent. Then the next one is the channel catfish. The channel catfish is found in bigger rivers. They are found in larger channels. Mostly in the Asian continent, you find the channel catfish. Then you have the flathead. The flathead is found in Africa. That is the one that you use. If you go to the market, you see the flathead. It's the flathead that is mostly available. The turi, they call it the turi. The turi, the bigger type, they are all found. They are called the flathead. Then you also have the yellow catfish, the macaw giant catfish, the one that is as big as if it's a shark. It's called the macaw. The macaw is very big, and so it's found. Those ones are found in the American continent. You have the iridescent catfish. You have the red-tailed catfish, the class catfish, the Condorian Pacific catfish, and then the Panovian catfish. So these are some types of catfish that are available, though there are more than these, but these are the ones that are mostly found in most. We want to look at the stages that you need to go through in terms of, and the materials you need in terms of catfish production. There are things that are very, very fundamental, things that you need in terms of catfish production. One of those things is one, the pond. The pond is very, very important. Without the pond, you cannot produce the catfish. You cannot have catfish farming or catfish production. There are different types of ponds. The first type is the earth pond, is the one that produces natural environment to the fish or to the catfish. It involves getting its landed property or hiring the landed property. You dig the land, and you need to consider the type of soil. If it is clay soil, sandy soil, or whatever type of soil, but ideally you should use the clay soil, because that has very good retentive materials or capability to retain water. You have to dig the pond between 4 to 5 feet. That's approximately 1.5 meters. After digging the pond, you need to prepare the pond. That is the earth pond. You need to prepare the pond. Prepare the pond involves putting the required chemical that will ensure that the salinity of the water or the bacteria that are there are not harmful, or they will not affect the fish when it is stored. Now, the quantity of fish that you put in the earth pond depend on the dimension. The dimension that you initially, from the onset, preset for the quantity that you want to. For example, if you want to rear 200 catfish, you need to have at least a 10 by 8 feet pond with a depth of 5 feet. The length should be 10 feet, the breadth should be 8 feet. That is for a 200 catfish. Because it depends, the space, each of the fish requires certain minimum space for it to move. So you need to have that, you need to put that into consideration. So if you want to rear, or you want to produce maybe 1,000 pieces of the catfish, you need to have a larger. In order to rear the catfish of 1,000 pieces, you need to have a bigger pond. A pond that will be at least, minimum length should be 20 feet. The breadth should be 10 or 15 feet. Then the depth should be 5 feet. With that, you can be able to stock minimum of 1,000 fish and have maximum output. Now, the depth of that pond should be slanting. It shouldn't be straight. That is the depth itself. You don't dig in a straight form. It has to be slanting, because it requires different depth, different level of depth for the catfish to really. Sometimes they go up to the lower depth, to the smaller depth, and then they go down to the deep. That is one of the ponds. The other pond is the block or the concrete pond. The concrete is a form of surface pond where you set the block, and then you put means of water supply. There must be an external means of water supply, so that you can regulate, you can change the water when it becomes acidic or when it becomes not convenient for the fish. There must be a means where you drain off the water and then you replace it. So there must be pipe, you must connect pipe. There must be clean water, source of clean water is very, very important, because once the water is acidic, definitely it will affect the health of the fish. So you must have a means of draining the water, which you will do maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. Because when you start feeding the fish, when you start putting the required fish feed, definitely the water becomes acidic. Good. That is the egg pond. It also depends on the quantity of fish you want to stock. The higher the number of fish that you want to stock, the bigger the pond should be. And the depth should be minimum of 5 feet. Minimum of 5 feet. It could be up to 10 feet, it could be up to 7 feet, it could be up to whatever feet, but a minimum of 5 feet. That is for the concrete pond. The next type of pond is the plastic pond. The plastic pond is a type of pond that is made up of plastic. You can even produce it when you have form of wood. You build the wood and then you put this PCB. You can buy the PCB plastics, or this what do you call it? These plastics that they use for banners. You can produce the plastic pond. Or you can buy the already made plastic pond. They sell it everywhere. So it depends on your financial position or whatever you have, the amount of funds you have. If you have enough funds, you can buy the ready-made plastic and then you use it for. But there must be source of water supply to the pond. The water must be drained out when it becomes acidic, or when you find out that the water is changing, because with time it changes as you start putting the fish feed. The water must. Once you look at pond preparation, before you stop, you must prepare the pond. After getting the required land or the plastic or whatever it is that you want to use, any of the 4 types, you must prepare the particular pond. If it is earthen pond, you must line the pond. Why do you need to line the pond? You line the pond so as to avoid high mortality rates of the fish. Before you must line the pond. You line the pond so as to prevent deaths, so as to prevent bacterial and other microorganisms that will attack or affect the fish. How do you line the pond? You get lime or the lime powder, mix it with 4 liters of water. After mixing, you now pour it inside the pond. You pour it inside the pond. That is the pond that has water. You pour it inside the pond and you leave it for a minimum of 2 weeks. You leave that pond for a minimum of 2 weeks. Within that 2 weeks period, the bacteria that are inside, whether it is frog or whatever is inside, will be dead. It will have killed all the bacteria that will affect the fish. The lime will have killed all those things. Then I want to talk about the fish feed. The feed is very, very important in terms of catfish production. There are different types of fish feeds. You have the foreign and the local type, and then the ones that you can even produce. The foreign types are imported. For example, you have the Coupang. Coupang is imported fish feed. We also have the local type. Like for example, you have the blue sky. Is an example. You also have more than 4 or 5 different types. Like the one that I use here is called Vita Feeds. Vita Feed is also a local type. You have the Blue Crown. Blue Crown is also a local fish feed. Then apart from the fish feeds that you can buy, you can as well produce something for them. Like you use crayfish, granules, and some proteinous things, mix it together. The fish will eat it and they will grow. Also, you can give the fish maggots. Maggot is because maggot contains a lot of protein. Maggot will make them to grow. Also, you can give the fish as fish feed, then other fish, smaller fish, that is when they have started growing, you can give them smaller fish. The fish will eat that smaller fish within seconds. And then the fish will grow. Also, like waste products, maybe food, waste food, gari, bread, rice, all those things. If you give it to the fish, it will grow. You understand? The catfish eat virtually anything that is given to it, and it will grow. But for productivity and for 21st century type of fish production, you don't give them some type of fish feeds. That is something like all this gari, bread, all those things, because it will reduce the growth. They will not grow as compared to when you give them the normal type that they use. Good. For the fish feed, you regulate the number of times that you give their feed to them. Ideally, you should give them twice. You should give the fish twice, that is the food. But you can make it three times maximum. In mornings, afternoon, evening, or morning and evening. Then before you give the fish the food, you must determine their weight. You must know the weight that group of fish has, the average weight. If you know the average weight, you can now give them 6%. 6% of the food, because they require per day 6% of food based on their weight. They require 6%, that's 0.06 of the food that they eat is what they require per day. Because if you overfeed the fish will not grow properly. It will affect your profit margin. If you underfeed the fish will not grow properly. It will affect your profit margin. So for you to utilize the adequate, or for you to get the adequate profit margin and for adequate growth and productivity, you will give them 6% of whatever weight that the fish have. That is the quantity that will be given. 6% of the weight, that's the quantity of food you give to them. For example, if the average weight of a particular fish, maybe there are 100 pieces in the pond. If the average weight, after weighing, if the average weight is maybe like 20 kilogram, that's the average weight, 20 kilogram, then you calculate 6% of 20 kilogram. You calculate 6% of 20 kilogram, which will be maybe close to 10 or 14 grams. That is the quantity of food that you give them for that particular each day. So you give them 14 grams. So you now divide it 7 grams in the morning, 7 grams in the evening. The fish feed, as part of the materials you need for the fish farm, the fish feed is a very vital and important material. The fish feed comes in various sizes. They are in mm. You have 2 mm, you have 3 mm, you have 4 mm, you have 6 mm, you have 7 mm and 9 mm. Each of the mm indicates or shows the type of fish that it can be fed. The smaller fish, that is the ones that are less than 50 grams, can be fed with the 2 mm. Then the larger fish can be fed with maybe 3 mm or 4 mm of the fish feed. The fish feed comes in pallets, in little pallets, of grains. This particular one is the 2 mm. This is the 2 mm, and this is from the Vital Feeds. There are different companies that produces the fish feed. You have, for example, the Vital Feeds. That's the ones produced in Nigeria. You have Vital Feed, you have MOF, you have Aqua Bull, you have EcoFloat. All these are companies that produce the fish feed. You also have the Blue Crown. All these fish feeds are produced locally within Nigeria. Some are produced in Ibadan, while some are produced in other parts of the country. You also have the foreign feeds. The foreign feeds, for example, you have the Coupang. The Coupang is a foreign feed, it's an imported feed. The local or the foreign feeds are all the same, but the slight difference is that the foreign feeds contain more nutrients. It contains more nutrients than the local feed, and it makes the fish to grow faster than the local feed. But still, the local feed will still produce something close to what you really want, you really desire. So the local feeds, like as I've told you, there are different sizes. You have the 2 mm, you have the 3 mm, you have the 4 mm, you have the 6 mm, you have the 7 mm, and the 9 mm for the bigger fish that is more than 1 kilogram. Now, the fish feed itself is given or is administered minimum of twice or 3 times a day. When after you must have stocked the fish, you give the fish at least twice a day, or if it's too much, 3 times a day. You don't overfeed the fish or you don't underfeed the fish. When you overfeed the fish, you find out that the growth rate will not be as expected, and again it will affect the water content, the oxygen content, and also the rate at which they will grow will not be as expected. But if you underfeed the fish, it will even be result to even worse than what it is. But so you need to determine the number of times you need to feed the fish. At least it has to be 2 minimum or 3 maximum. That is the rate at which you need to feed the fish per day. And if you don't feed the fish with the right quantity, definitely the growth will be affected and your production will be very, very low. Okay, this size is the 3 mm. It's bigger than the initial 2 mm which we have seen. This size is for the fish that is a bit bigger than the former 50 grams that I talked about. This is the Vita Feed. The Vita Feed is a company. Vita Feed is the name of a company, and they produce the various sizes which we have shown. And this size is the 3 mm. The 3 mm is also used as one of the fish feeds. These are local fish feeds that are produced within the country, and you can give it to a fish to the stock that is above 3 weeks. From 3 weeks to 1 month, you can give them this 3 mm fish feed. Okay. Also, we have the 4 mm. The 4 mm is bigger in size. If you look at it closely, you see that it's bigger in size than the former 3 mm. This can be given to fish that is up to 2 months. It can be given to a fish that is up to, even the one of 1 month can take this, but it should be given to a fish of above 4, that is above 4 weeks. And this size is the same size that is produced by the same size that is maintained by all the fish feed producers, like the foreign fish feed and also the local fish feed. So you can give it to the fish that is up to 2 months, that is 8 weeks. That is this 4 mm size, the 4 mm size. And there's something I've not mentioned. Each of these fish feed comes in 15 kg bags. Each of these fish feed that is produced both locally and by the foreign producers, they bag it in 15 kilograms bag. The 15 kilogram bag, that is what Yes, on the screen is the 6 mm size. That is the feed for the fish feed. You can see that it's bigger. Look at each of the grain. It's bigger than the previous grain. They are all bigger in size. They are bigger in size, and you can give it to fish that is up to at least 8 weeks and above. If you give it to fish that is less than a week, it cannot consume this. So it has to be given to fish that is above 8 weeks. That is 2 months, 3 months and above. That is the 6 mm size. It is produced by Vita Feed. This particular product is produced by Vita Feeds. You also have other companies that produce in Nigeria. Like, for example, you have the Aloe Aqua is one of the companies. You also have the Blue Crown. The Blue Crown is also a company that produces this type of fish feed. So you can give this to a fish that is above for 8 weeks, from 8 weeks and above. All right, this particular grain is the 9 mm Vita Feeds. 9 mm Vita Feeds. The 9 mm is for fish that is above 3 months. From 3 months and above, that is from 12 weeks and above. If you look at the grains, the size, the pallet, they are bigger than the one of 6 mm. They are larger in size. The moment you give it to them on regular basis, that is the fish that is above 12 weeks. That is above 12 weeks, approximately 6 months. If you give this to the smaller fish that is 1 month or less than a month or 6 or 3 weeks, definitely they might not be able to consume. So you have to give it to fish that is above 12 weeks, which is 3 months and above. This is the size for it, and this particular one is from Vita Feeds. You also have for other companies, they are all the same size and the same product. Thank you. Okay, as part of the process, as part of the pond process, preparation process, the pond needs to be slimed. To lime the pond, you need to get the lime chemical from any of these stores where they sell it. You pour in 50 grams of the chemical into 4 liters of water. You mix it properly. After mixing it, you now pour it on the pond. Pour it in the pond and allow the water or the pond to stay for 2 weeks. Allow it to stay for 2 weeks before stocking. Before you stock the pond with the quantity of fish that you want to farm. The purpose of the liming is to kill or remove all bacteria that are inside the pond or inside the water after the pond is dug. It could be the earth pond or the concrete pond or whatever pond that you want to use. You need to lime the pond first before you stock for effective productivity, for effective growth. The pond needs to be properly limed. 4 liters of water and 50 grams of the lime powder. The powder is whitish. It's very whitish. It's a whitish powder. You can get it in any of the stores where they sell fish feeds. Tell them you want to get or you want to buy the lime, the lime for pond preparation. They will give it to you. It's sold in grams. Just 50 grams will be enough for 12 by 12 feet pond. After 2 weeks of addition, After 2 weeks of addition of the lime water, then you can now stop. Thank you. All right. This what we have here is the fish biotics. The fish biotics is an antibiotics that prevents the fish from having high mortality. The antibiotics is very necessary so that the bacteria that are inside the water can be destroyed even when the fish is inside the water. How do we add this to the water? We tear off the upper part, or we cut some part out of it. Then we pour at least a minimum of 5 grams. 5 grams of the powder. There is powder inside here. 5 grams of the powder that is inside into 4 liters of water. You can even increase it. That is, if we find out that the rate at which the fish inside the water is dying, that is, the mortality is getting high, we know that there's something wrong. So we have to get this powder. As I was saying, the fish feeds determine the profitability or the profit margin you can get. It depends on how you feed the fish that the fish will grow. If you feed it sparingly, definitely it will not grow properly. But if you feed it adequately, as at when you follow the chart, there's a chart that one of the benefits that you can derive from catfish production is one, it gives you a lot of protein for family use. That is, in terms of dieting, it produces a lot of protein. Number two, when you go into catfish production, you are into self-employment or self-business. Three, economic benefits. It gives you a lot of freedom financially. When you go into it fully, you find out that it is very, very profitable. Very, very profitable. It depends on how you produce or how you properly manage the production process. How do you manage the production process results in how profitable the catfish business is. The other aspect is that of national benefit. So a lot of countries depend on catfish production. You can export it, you can package it and use it for proper export. You can as well distribute it to a lot of eateries, a lot of big food producing companies that can use it. So it has both individual benefits and also to national benefits. So when you go into catfish production, as far as you do it according to the required standard, definitely you will have economic benefit out of it. Sometimes the fish might not consume or be able to feed properly. The multivitamin will motivate or will activate the fish for it to be able to feed as at when due. And if they don't feed properly, definitely their growth will be stunted. So the multivitamin, to use it, and this is the multivitamin, to use it, you pour 5 cl of this liquid into 4 liters, or between 5 to 10 cl of this liquid into 4 liters of water. Mix it properly, and then just as you did to the antibiotics, you turn between 5 to 10 cl of this liquid, which is the vitamins or the growth, the super growth. You turn it in a 4 liter liquid, and then you pour it. After stirring it, you pour it into the pond, and the fish will be able to feed properly and it will grow accordingly. If they don't grow accordingly, definitely your productivity will be low. Despite the quantity of food that you give to them, they still need extra or other means that will assist in terms, and the fish will be able to feed properly and it will grow accordingly. If they don't grow accordingly, definitely your productivity will be low. Despite the quantity of food that you give to them, they still need extra or other means that will assist in terms of the growth, so that you can look at the fish stocking. To stock, which is a vital area, to stock means to bring the fish or the quantity of fish you want to produce into the pond, to stock the pond. Now, this is where you need to apply some calculation, some technicalities. If you want to stock 100 pieces of fish product, one, you must know the quantity that can go into the pond, because if the pond is very small, definitely it will affect the fish. If the pond is not large enough, definitely it will affect the fish. So if you are to stock 200 fish, you would use a minimum dimension of 10 feet by 8 feet. There will be enough space for the fish to grow. If you want to stock something like 500 fish, you must use minimum of at least 10 or 12 feet by 12 feet, so that they will grow accordingly. If you want to stock something around 1,000 fishes, you will stock something greater than that dimension for 500 fish. So to stock the fish depends on the pond. If you go and stock the fish where the fish will be, the pond is small and the fish, there will be overcrowdedness. Definitely, if you feed the fish with a bag of fish food every day, they will still not grow, because the space is not enough for them to grow, for them to move around freely, because they need freedom to move around. So stocking, before you do your stocking, you must know, one, the length of the length of the pond, number one. Then number two, you must know the quantity that you are stocking inside the pond, and then you must calculate or determine the quantity of feed that will be applied. That's the fish food that will be applied in that particular pond. The quantity depends on the quantity of fish feed depends on the quantity of fish that you're adding. This is where you need to do some technicalities. That's some calculation. If you want to stock 200 fish, what quantity of fish feed would you give to them? The quantity of fish feed that will be given to that fish, those 200 fish per day, is 0.6 or 6% of their body weight. If the body weight is maybe 10 kilograms, the total 200 fish, the body weight is 10 kilograms. That is, if you weigh the 200 fish and you find out that the total body weight, or maybe the average body weight of the total 200 fish is 10 kilograms, what do? You calculate 6% of that weight, that 10 kilograms. That 6% will be approximately 6 grams. That's 10%. That's 6% will be approximately, yes, that's 6 grams of that body weight. What do? You can divide that 6 grams into 2. That is 3 grams in the morning, 3 grams in the evening. Or maybe 2 grams in the morning, 2 grams in the afternoon, and 2 grams in the evening. So that is the quantity of fish feed that will be given to them per day. If you give them less than 6 grams, if it is 6 grams that is required, if you give them less than 6 grams, definitely they will be stunted growth. And if you go and give them maybe 10 grams per day or 15 grams per day instead of 6 grams, definitely they will be overweight and they will not grow. They will not grow because the water will become acidic. Because number one, they will not be able to consume more than what they need to. They will not be able to consume. So there will be excess food in the water and it turns the water acidic and it will affect their health. So you need to know the quantity of food that you want to give to that quantity that you are stocking. You need to know the dimension of the pond that you want to stock that because of what? Freedom for movement, so that you can have maximum. Look at feeding and monitoring. You need to monitor the amount of food that is given to the fish on daily basis. There's a chart. You follow the chart. That chart contains the quantity of fish that is the average body weight, the dimension of the pond, and then the quantity that is given to the fish in the morning or in the evening. Or if it is 3 times you want to feed them, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Then at the end of each week, that is, if you give them the feed in the morning, today, tomorrow, the morning, afternoon, evening, each day, you will record in the chart the quantity that is given to them throughout Monday to Saturday or Monday to Sunday. At the end of the week, you now take 1 or 2 of the fish. You now weigh that. You do random weighing. You weigh randomly, maybe 10 times or 20 times or 5 times. You now look at the average weight. That average weight will tell you if the fish is growing or the fish is not growing. You do it every week. So you now know if the average weight is the difference between the previous week and this current week that you're doing is not much. Maybe the difference is 3 grams or 2 grams. You know that the fish is not growing accordingly. When you do the average weight calculation or the average weighing, you can be able to now know if this fish is growing or if something is wrong within the environment, so that you can know the proper measures to apply. But you need to monitor so that you can know, okay, this week I overfeed the fish by certain percentage. So next week I will reduce it, I will normalize. Or this week the fish, the growth rate is affected because of maybe some bacteria that has affected or maybe the impurities in the water, or maybe the acidic content of the water. So you can be able to now know the accurate measures to apply. So feeding and monitoring is very, very important. You monitor
yes, as a part of the fish farm process, the feeding has to be monitored, and there are some monitoring charts that are used for it. Like you have the daily monitoring and feeding chart, the fish stocking and fish stocking record sheet, water quality monitoring sheet, fish mortality record sheet, material and input on operation sheet, and then the fish farming revenue sheet. All these sheets are important in the management and monitoring of the fish farming process. With the sheet, you can be able to determine the average weight per week of the quantity of fish that are available. You can as well determine the total quantity of fish that is available per week or per month, because definitely there will be some mortality rate. It depends on, one, the condition of the water in the pond, the health of the fish, and also the type of fish feed that you use. Some of the fish feed will cause a lot of acidity in the water. Some will even change or bring bacteria into the water. So for that reason, you need to monitor, you need to check on daily basis the quantity of fish that is available, and also the rate at which these feeds or this fish is growing. So you can only do this with the fish monitoring sheets or the stock. You need to record the quantity of fish feed that is applied or that you give to them on daily basis. With that, you can be able to get the average weight, and also you can be able to now monitor or check the rate at which they are growing, and also you can be able to determine the profitability of the stock. With this sheet, you can be able to now know, good, at the end of the farming period, I will be able to harvest this quantity, or I will be able to make little profit, or I'll be able to make this. You can forecast, you can be able to know how you are performing. These sheets are very, very important, which is the chart. You should be able to have these charts available before you go into the full operation. Thank you.
We want to look at the preservation and sales. If the monitoring is done accordingly and the feeding of the fish is done accordingly based on the laid down principle, that is, you have to feed them twice or 3 times per day. You need to know the body weight. You give them based on the body weight. 6% of their body weight is what you give to them. You can be able to determine the number of bags, the number of grams, and the number of kilograms that you need per month, per week, or to the period that you train them, because each of these food has weight. They come in 15 kilogram bags. If you have to train 100 fish, and you must train them to at least 1 kilogram weight before you start selling them, because they are measured in kilograms. They are measured in kilograms, and the buyers buy them in kilograms, except the market women that buys without weighing. But if you want to sell them in the standard market, they weigh before they buy. If you want to supply them to eateries or to other big food industries, they weigh before they buy. So for you to sell, you must get to at least 1 kilogram. And if you want to produce 100 pieces of the fish, that is, if you are stocking 100 pieces, you should calculate each one must get to 1 kilogram. So 1 kilogram times 100, which is 100 kilogram. 100 kilogram divided by 15, because a bag is 15 kilogram. You can now know how many bags do you need before the fish will get to maturity. Before the fish will get to approximately, you need between 8 to 9 bags for it to get to maturity. That is 100 pieces. If you are training 100 pieces, so you need between 8, 9, or at most 10 bags of 15 kilogram for it to get to maturity. Now, if all those things are determined, then you can now determine the cost per bag. You can now determine the cost of per bag. A bag is between 8,000 to 15,000. So when you now cost it, maximum 10 bags, 10 times 15, that's 150,000 naira. That is if a bag is sold at 15,000, but it will not definitely get to that amount. So with that, you can determine the amount that you can put in terms of the food, in terms of the fish feed that you need for it to grow to the maximum number that will be profitable to you. Then you can determine as well the drugs or the other multivitamins and the other things that you need. So you need, for you to produce 100 to 200 fish with maximum profitability, you need at least minimum of between 50 to 100,000 naira to get to that. Then how do you now preserve these things after it has gotten up to 1 kilogram weight and you want to sell? How do you preserve it? You can preserve it by maybe you put them in a drum and maybe put water and preserve it there. Or you can, if it is something that you don't want to consume immediately, you can refrigerate them. Or you can dry them. You can dry them, or you can sun them. You can preserve them with salt. You can preserve them with salt. And also, if you want to sell, you can export. You can preserve them, do proper preservation, and sell and export this thing, because catfish is a very and export. You can preserve them, do proper preservation, and sell and export this thing, because catfish is a very viable source of protein all over the world. There's no part of the world that don't know about catfish, nor don't know the usefulness of catfish. So the catfish is very useful. So you can preserve those things and then make a better sales. You can sell it in the public market, or you can sell it to eateries, or you can as well use it for your personal consumption, for yourself and your family. As well, you can export
So this is
them.
a concrete pond, and we can put as much as 400, 500 fish in each of the pond. There are 4 ponds here. 1, 2, the second one, then the third one at the other side, then the fourth one at the edge. Each of these contains. Okay, this is the water coming in. This is the water coming into the pond. Water coming into the pond. The fresh water coming into the pond. And you keep it for at least 30 minutes to 40 minutes, so that we have enough. This is the pipe through which the water is poured in. When you turn this knob, water goes into the pond. And then to drain out the water, you need to remove this other pipe, which I'm going to show you. This is the pipe here. This pipe. Once you draw it out, the water will. But the first thing you do is that you have to remove the pipe so that water will be drained out before you pour in fresh water into the pond. Yes, this fish, we drain out the water. The water has to be drained out once a week, so that you can have fresh water into the pond. If the water is not drained out, the water becomes very acidic. So let's look at how to drain out the water and to add new water. When you throw the fish, when you throw the food inside the water, they start moving at a very large. They start struggling for the food. They start the feed. The size of the feed is 5 mm. The food is given to them twice a day, in the morning and towards evening period. And okay, these are local breeds. These are local breeds, and when you feed them, when you give them the food, they will come around to take it. They are smaller in size for now. we throw the fish to the, throw the food.
By broadcast, we spread it everywhere.
So we spread it throughout so that they will now come in to start consuming.
Some farmers prefer to put it at the spots, a feeding spot.
Yes.
Then you monitor their growth through that. But I prefer to broadcast it everywhere. You spread it everywhere so that every fish will have, if not equal distance, but at least they should all eat. The fish is Etro Broncos. That's we call them a mono in the native language.
Yes, a mono. And the size presently is around.
This is around 600 grams, which is 0.6 kg.
It's around 0.6 kg. So these are 600 grams. And here we have the earth pond. This one where we train them under the earth pond. We have a concrete pond, and this concrete pond contains.
This one now contains 259 fishes, catfish.
We have 259 catfish in this particular one. We have 200 catfish in this other egg pond. This other concrete pond. This is a concrete pond, and it contains 200 fishes. Okay, these are hybrid fish. These are all hybrid fish. The moment you throw the fish feed, the local fish feed, they start moving, struggling for the food. You feed them twice a day. You feed them in the morning, you feed them in the evening.